We'll start with our discussion of phylum Echinodermata. They are all marine and they all have dermal spines. Echinodermata refers to spiny skin. They are all made with these calcareous plates. In fact, a lot of the dead sea stars that you find, even the brittle stars, will end up leaving behind this calcium carbonate skeleton. And they all exhibit some form of pentaradial symmetry, which is symmetry in fives. It looks a little bit like radial symmetrically, but is pentaradial symmetrical. And when you look at the internal anatomy, you'll see this is not true radial symmetry. They all feature a unique characteristic called the water vascular system, pumping water in through a madreporite or a sieve plate, and then that goes out into this system of tube feet and these ampullae that works as sort of a walking system. They are the most distinct of all the animals, so they're the hardest to get wrong on a lab exam. They move through the facilitation of these tube feet, and the internal structure that drives that are the ampullae. On a subsequent slide, we'll look at the actual internal anatomy of that. Water does enter the starfish through the madreporite. It's also known as the sieve plate. They have arms that are in multiples of 5, and this is specific to the class Asteroidea, the sea stars. And you're not distinct. You cannot actually differentiate where the arms of the rays begin and end. They do have a large central disc, and we'll take a look at that as we get into the anatomy. Again, they have dermal spines, but the name Echinodermata should suggest that. And then they have little pinchers on the top of them called pedicellurea, and those can actually help. Again, class Asteroidea. It's another sea star. The sea star, and you can tell, again, that has more than 5 arms, but it would be in a multiple of 5. There are some, like this crown of thorns sea star, that can be venomous. And beautiful. To the mouth. Here are the tube feet walking. And it's a highly coordinated effort. Very significant, too, for an organism that really doesn't even have any brain or nervous tissue to speak of. Here are the pedicellurea. Again, they can help facilitate moving a current along, and they can even be venomous in some species. So here's a look at the internal anatomy. Hopefully in a lab exercise you got a chance to dissect one of these. The external anatomy, you've already seen the ambulacral groove and you saw the tube feet. Internally, those tube feet have a canal in which the water is brought down into them, and water is pumped into these piston-like structures called the ampullae. The ampullae, once this is filled up with water, will shoot down the tube feet in a coordinated effort. Here are the ampullae on the top ridge, and this would be the ambulacral ridge. Here we've got digestive glands, and if you've done a dissection, you will notice that they're all over the place. And if you were lucky enough during your dissection, you may have seen the reproductive structures, the gonads. The entrance to the water vascular system is the madreporite, or the sieve plate, and that moves water down into the ring canal, which we'll take a look at on the next slide. The madreporite, again, is the filtration system, comes down into a stone canal and comes into a circular or a ring canal. And that structure will then distribute water out to the ampullae and then move the tube feed up and down. So that was class Asteroidea. This is class Ophiroidea. These are you can click out and watch a video of the brittle stars feeding or fighting. I can't remember which one. Again, O for Ophiroidea, you do have that distinct central disc and the 5 arms coming out. Again, loose articulation in those plates, which allows for a very fast and serpentine-like movement. O for Ophiroidea, with 5 distinct arms coming off the central disc. Basket stars. Here's another basket star, and again you see that same general structure with a large central disc and arms coming off in multiples of 5. There's another one. And another one. Phylum Echinodermata class Echinoidea. So this is the third class of Echinodermata. Here's one with large spines. This is an urchin. Thick spines. And here is that unique feeding structure, Aristotle's lantern. It does Here's a rock. This is a venomous species. This is the long-spined black poisonous sea urchin. This is another well-named organism. This is the pink urchin. You can see that these spines actually have 2 feet on the outside, and if you were to look at this one, say hold your hand and move it over, you would see that it is again alive. Here's a sea biscuit, which is just a sand dollar that is sort of more rounded. Which leads us to the next class of echinoderms, the class Holothroidea. These are the sea cucumbers, also represented by the sea apples. I don't know who named them. They must have been hungry at the time. The plates here have been reduced, as has the skeleton, to microscopic. They're actually even flimsy if you get certain species. Even though they are in the Echinodermata, they don't have any projection spines. They still have a very rough skin for the most part, but there's no discernible spines. Their body is elongated, so you can still see the pentaradial symmetry, but it's almost as if someone has taken an urchin and stretched it way out. Their tentacles are both used for respiration, so gathering oxygen in and out of the water column, also for a very rudimentary form of filter feeding. They have Cuvarian organs and may eviscerate them. These Cuvarian organs are sort of like a backup defense mechanism. They're usually very sticky, and if the sea cucumber is being predated upon, they can actually eject these organs, and it'll either trap the prey or it'll give the prey something, the predator, something nice to chew on for a little while the sea cucumber can escape. Here's a sea cucumber, and here's a thin-walled sea cucumber, a very flimsy body. Another sea cucumber. And this is a sea apple, another The last class of echinoderms that we'll look at is class Crinoidea. These are also known as the sea lilies. They are the strangest of the echinoderms. Their mouth is in the dorsal position. Morphologically, they're going to look a lot like some of the annelids that you saw, but they are characterized by these stalks we call cirri. And so they attach by these cirri, and they can move around just a little bit, but mostly just suspension feeders. The neat thing about these is they have a very conservative evolution, which means fossils of crinoids look very, very much like their living relatives today. Again, this probably looks a lot like an Again, looks a lot like Annelida polychaeta, but you've got these cirri for attachment. Same thing. Now, in a bonus organism here, we've got a brittle star. So, Echinodermata ophiroidea and Echinodermata crinoidea, all in one picture. So here is the basic look at